Hi, hello, and welcome to Rebel Unicorn Crafts. Today we're going to be talking about how I upcycled an old fluid painting canvas semi-fail into some fun, unique pieces of jewelry. The first thing you want to do is pick a canvas that's going to work for this. So one that you don't really care too much about, and one for this jewelry project that's going to be pliable. You don't want an old, cracked, heavy canvas like this one, where if you bent it, it would snap. I actually have an upcoming tutorial on what to do with these types of old canvases, but select one that is going to be able to be pliable and bendable. When you're selecting your canvas, I chose this old one that I did as a test for a different one with blue and white. And I chose this one because it's smooth, there are no cracks, and it's also really pliable. And in my experience, the pliable canvases are the ones where you use more artist grade paints. So this was with Blick acrylic, and I find that it is a very pliable paint when dry. So first select a canvas that's going to work, and then you're going to want to remove it from that wooden frame. You can do this in a couple ways. You can either take something like a screwdriver, or you can actually just take an X-Acto knife and cut along the edges. Just be careful, obviously. This can be a little dangerous. There's a lot of sharp type things between these staples, and if you're using any sort of sharp tool, whichever way you decide to do it, the first step is to remove it. Once removed, I cleaned up the edges just using some sharp scissors so that when I turn this over to actually cut the pieces I wanted from it, I wouldn't be kind of working with these extra ridges on the sides. So go ahead and clean up any of the sides of your canvas that you won't be using. The first thing I'm going to show you how to make are these kind of folded over looped earrings, and we're going to need some of these end crimps to do this. You can find these end crimps from most hobby type stores or craft supply stores, and they're little kind of bent over pieces of metal that on one side have a serration, and what they do is they allow you to crimp them on to fabric or some sort of material, but then it also has a loop so that you can attach any of your jewelry findings to them. Measure these crimps so that you know about how big they are, so you know how thick of strips to actually cut, and then kind of evaluate your canvas and determine about where you're going to want to cut on that canvas to get the most interesting part of it that you want for your piece of jewelry. And then I just drew lines on the back using my ruler and a pencil in those lengths or widths that I needed in order to actually make my little earring piece. Cut as many as you need. So if you've got both ears pierced, you're going to want 2 strips per pair of earrings. I'm doing 4 different strips plus 2 strips of the wider ones so that I can make 2 pairs of earrings. Then it's time to cut them out. And again, you've got options to cut these out. You can either use something like a rolling cutter or a sharp pair of scissors. I did a combination of both to show you that both work, but cut along those lines that you marked so that you know the width you need for those earrings. Cut each strip, double check that it is the right width, and also maybe flip it over to make sure that you like what you're seeing. Then the next thing you want to decide is how big of a loop do you want these to be. So in general, I'm thinking that I want my loop to be about 4.5 inches long. So when it's looped, it's going to be more like a 2-inch dangle because you'll lose some of the length to the loop part. And I measured out, and I also tried to get the most interesting pieces so that I was cutting off most of the black edges, but just mark where those are, check that it's going to be the length that you want, and it's also going to showcase the area of the painting that you think is the best for the earrings. Then trim and repeat for the other side so that you have 2 of these. I'm actually making 2 pairs of earrings, one with a thinner strip and one with a thicker strip, so I repeated the same process so that I got 2 more pieces. for my thicker strip ones, and then I actually decided that I wanted to use those end clamps to make a bracelet. So I took one of my thicker strips that I had cut and I measured around my wrist. You're going to want to actually go about a half an inch to an inch shorter than the length around your wrist, so that when you add all the jewelry hardware onto there, that it will be the right length and it won't be way too floppy on your wrist. We're already ready for the finishing touches on these, so we're going to line up our end crimps, and then we're going to take a pair of needle nose pliers or some sort of flat pliers. For the bracelet, we don't need to loop our painting over, we just want to crimp those on to each end. Make sure you press hard enough that the serration on those end crimps actually kind of imprints into the fabric side or into the painting side so that it actually stays on. At first you're going to think you're squeezing maybe too hard, but you're probably not. Just go back and forth and squeeze to secure from both sides. And I always give it a bit of a tug just to make sure that it's actually going to stay on there. Repeat on the other side. And then we're going to move on to doing the earrings. The only thing that's slightly more complicated about this is we're going to fold them over, and we're going to want to try to keep those ends as lined up as we can when we insert them into the end crimp, and you're going to just push them down. Go ahead and repeat that process for all the pieces that you have remaining. Just make sure that after you attach them, you pull on them a bit to make sure that they are secure. This is when you really want to make sure that everything is good. If you're really struggling with getting them attached, you could also use a little super glue or something like that. These end crimps work perfectly for attaching different jewelry findings to them that have loops to attach. So I grabbed some ear wires because that's what I want to attach things with. I grabbed my needle nose pliers, and then I also got a little lobster clasp and some jump rings to make my bracelet. For attaching the ear wires, if you've never done this before, it's actually pretty simple. You just need to turn the ear wire upside down, and it's going to let that little protective coil fall back, and you can open up that little loop. Make sure that it's facing the right direction, slip it in, and then reclose that loop. Now you've got an earring. Add on any other ear wires that you are making earrings for, and then we're going to move on to doing the bracelet. This one is only just a little bit more complicated. Instead of just attaching one thing, we're going to want to, on one side, attach either a chain if you have some extra chain, and you'll do that by adding a jump ring on one side and then attaching the chain to it, or you can do like I did, where I actually created my own little chain from jump rings because I didn't have any excess chain just sitting around, and you just open those up and slide them on. You can actually do 2 of these at a time so that it goes a little faster. Remember, whenever you're opening a jump ring, don't pull the pieces away from each other. You want to pull them to the side so that they will stay closed better when you actually reclose them. Then on the other side, you're going to take a jump ring and attach the little lobster clasp, and now you've got a functioning bracelet. Another option for creating earrings is to simply cut out the shapes you want, and this is great for if you want a different shape or if you only have ear wires on hand. I like to do these kind of teardrop shape earrings for a lot of different things, including some of my metal work, and I always cut out the shape on a piece of scrap paper, something thicker, like maybe a cardboard or a cardstock is my favorite to use, and I cut them out so I can hold them up next to my ear just to make sure they're the right size, and then you can just trace them so that you have, kind of the same size is going to be on both ears. Trace and cut them out carefully. Once you have them cut out, then all you need to do is poke holes in order to put the ear wires in the top of these. Make sure you go close enough to where it's going to easily fit and fall in the loop of the ear wire, but not so close that it's going to possibly tear. When it gets too close, you might have something like a leather punch, or you can just use a tack and push in to make a little hole that's going to be about the right size to slip those ear wires through. So, see, I put them about there and just make the little hole. Probably do this down. I'm just trying to show you about where it's at. But that's about where I'm going to put my holes, and then we just clip the ear wires on. And that's it. We've made all of our pieces of jewelry. So these are great for last minute little gifts or just a fun activity to upcycle your old fluid canvases that you were going to either toss or repaint over. Maybe make something new out of them. I'm going to do the next series. I'm going to show you how I make a few other items that are not jewelry related. If you'd like to see that, make sure you're subscribed so you see when the next video comes out. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. I will do my best to answer them, and I hope you have a magically creative day.